Today I have got a homeschool mom book haul to share with you. As I was starting to get ready to film this video and collecting the books I've gotten recently, I realized I may have gotten ahead of myself a little bit. I think it's going to take me a while to get through all of these, but they are all ones that I have really wanted to read, and I am excited to share them with you as well. There will be links to all of these books in the description below if you're interested in checking them out yourself. So let's dive in. The first book I'm going to share with you is 1,000 Hours Outside by Jenna Urich. And I have been following her on Instagram for several years, and I'm super inspired by her. And she kind of created this whole movement to spend 1,000 hours outside with your kids during the course of 1 year, because so much of kids' time these days is spent on screens, and that is just not healthy for them. And she's trying to bring us back to spending more time outdoors. And this book is one that just came out like maybe a month or two ago, and I'm a couple chapters into it and loving it so far. It says it's chock full of personal, scientific, psychological, and sociological insight. The pages of this book make a persuasive case for prioritizing child-led nature play. And so I have been wanting to incorporate more of this in our home, and I'm looking forward to having some actual research to back up the fact that it is helpful and beneficial for our kids to do that. The next book is Give Your Child the World by Jamie C. Martin, Raising Globally Minded Kids One Book at a Time. And I feel like this is so important to teach our kids all about God's big world and all the beautiful, amazing people and cultures in it. And so this is kind of just a reference book that lists out a whole bunch of books for you to read with your kids or have them read, that teaches them about different cultures and people all around the world. So this is one that is for me to use to find books that will go along with different places that we're studying in geography or something like that, for us to incorporate some more world studies into our homeschool. The next book I'm going to share is called No More School. The subtitle is Meeting the Educational Needs of Kids with Dyslexia. Thank you, Rue. And language-based learning difficulties. I do have one child with dyslexia, and this has been a challenge for us. This is a book that came highly recommended by a friend of mine who also has a child with dyslexia. This book is kind of about teaching us how to create an engaging and meaningful learning environment that is effectual for teaching kids with dyslexia. And on the back it says that it will help you, equip you to understand that learning struggles caused by dyslexia are learning differences that require a different way of teaching. It's going to help us to step outside the box of the traditional model of teaching kids to read and write and that kind of stuff, and focus on our child's unique learning needs and perspectives, and to help provide peace in knowing that we are doing enough and our kids are going to turn out amazing, and this will help give us some resources to do that. Kind of piggybacking off of that, I have been more and more drawn to the Charlotte Mason method of learning, and we are really going to be going full steam ahead in that approach with our homeschool going forward. I have heard Sonia Schaefer from Simply Charlotte Mason speak at a homeschool conference a few years ago and was so inspired by her, and this model of education can really work. And so I purchased this book by her called Hearing and Reading, Telling and Writing, Charlotte Mason Language Arts Handbook. So this is going to be teaching me how to approach language arts using a Charlotte Mason model of hearing, reading, narrating or telling, and then writing those things down. And so I am looking forward to incorporating this philosophy and this type of education within our homeschool, but I needed some more help to make sure that I'm making it be the best that it can be. And so I wanted to turn to someone who has been doing it and teaching people how to do it for a long time. So I'm really excited to dive into this one as we get closer to starting our homeschool year. This next one I actually already read because I was just chomping at the bit to read it, and I read it in like 2 or 3 days. This is called A Thomas Jefferson Education, Teaching a Generation of Leaders for the 21st Century. And I was super inspired by this. This method of education is really founded on the idea of how, like, our founding fathers learned and how they became so highly educated without the modern public school setting, without really any schooling. Most of the learning that happened back during Thomas Jefferson's time period was based on reading classic literature, having lots of conversation, having mentors, and I was really inspired by this one to incorporate more classic literature, not just within our homeschool, but for me as well. I haven't read a whole lot of classics before, but this really spurred me on to wanting to do that, and I'm looking forward to having our kids become better read by reading high quality literature and a lot of the classic literature that goes along with that. So I definitely recommend this one if that's something that you're interested in as well. And then these same people, Oliver DeMille and his wife Rachel, they put together this other book called Leadership Education, The Phases of Learning, and this is kind of piggybacks on that Thomas Jefferson education book, where it teaches you the different phases that kids go through as they grow up and how their brains work and how they process and understand information. So this goes through like why the different phases of learning matter. They have like the core phase, the love of learning phase, and then the scholar phase, the depth phase, goes on mission phase, impact phase. So these different phases, for lack of a better word, as children grow, and kind of teaches you ingredients, is how they put it, as far as really developing them while they're in those different phases of learning. So I'm looking forward to reading through this and figuring out how we can incorporate some more of those on each of our kids' intellectual levels that they're on as they go about their education. Another book I got that I heard about actually from a different YouTube video, I can't remember who off the top of my head, but this one looked interesting to me. This is called Common Arts Education, Renewing the Classical Tradition of Training the Hands, Head, and Heart. So this is a book about kind of with Thomas Jefferson's time period, but teaching a lot of practical hands-on skills. It talks about how the liberal arts, the trivium and quadrivium, which are what is the phases of learning in classical education, how they represent the core frameworks for cultivating virtue and practicing skill vital to our life in the world, yet they alone are insufficient, for we must eat, heal, defend ourselves, trade, build, find our way around, and more. It's these common arts that form the tincture of natural knowledge, the experiences in real life application, that will allow the student to become not only fully functional in his or her knowledge, but fully charitable in the world. The common arts provide the practical, artisanal elements of a holistic education. You will find the liberal arts applied, the fine arts situated, and the common arts revealed as a critical element of a classical education. So this looks like a fun one, especially I have one son who is super hands-on and loves doing projects and things like that. So I think he's really going to be excited about incorporating some more of this kind of stuff into our homeschool. I still don't know exactly how I'm going to fit all of this stuff in. I'm working out those details, so stay tuned. Another one that I got is called Skip College, Launch Your Career Without Debt, Distractions, or a Degree by Connor Boyack. And this is more geared towards kids who are in high school for them to read, but I wanted to read this as a parent. But I am of the belief that kids do not have to go to college in order to be successful in life, and there are a lot of other ways to make a good living and to be happy and fruitful in life without necessarily having a college degree and thousands of debt racked up in the process. It's filled with practical advice and action steps for teenagers and young adults. It's a must read for those looking to launch their career. So I think this will just be a good reference book. I'm not super urgent reading this one, as my oldest is only going into 8th grade, but it's something for me to keep in mind and get to once I get through some of these other ones that will be more practically and readily applied. And then the last one I have is called Mama Bear Apologetics, Guide to Sexuality by Hilary Morgan Ferrer, empowering your kids to understand and live out God's design. It says it's to help us understand God's design for gender, sex, marriage, and family as a beautiful portrait that reveals the nature of God himself, to identify the tactics being used to trick children into adopting an unbiblical view of sexuality under the guise of Christian-sounding words like love, identity, tolerance, and justice, and teaching your kids to treat those who hold different beliefs with gentle, Christ-like compassion without compromising biblical values. And I have several friends who have read this and highly recommended this book for teaching practical skills to our kids. This is for me to read, to learn how to talk to my kids about sexuality and how to equip them and empower them to be able to stand on God-given biblical principles in a world that is rapidly turning away from his truth. I'm looking forward to going through this. But I'm curious if you have read this one or any of these other books, what your thoughts on them were. Please drop that in the comments below. If you like book type videos, make sure you check out this video here that are about 5 books that really transformed and changed my life over the years. I've got quite a few different book videos on my channel, so if you're interested in those, I will link a playlist that is my all about books in the description below that has all the different book videos that I've done in the past. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button below, and I will see you next time. Bye!